Let's try to do a little bit of cycles real nice and quickly for you guys. Remembering this whole time that the reason we think cycles are so important is because we're made up of matter. There's only a finite amount of matter on Earth. Remembering your eco footprint things. If you're using up 4.5 Earths, we don't have that. We don't have 4.5 Earths. We only have enough matter for all of us to share and recycle. And that's what we really mean by recycle. We mean that this matter, whether it's water, nitrogen, carbon, is still cycling from living things to non-living things. And the water cycle is nice and easy, I believe. Hydrologic is the fancy name for the water cycle. And it's how water moves from bodies of water into the sky, into living organisms, and on and on and on. So I'll walk through it really quickly, but you guys know this one. You've done this one. Let's start at number 1, like they do at any body of water, be it the ocean, rivers, streams, little lakes. The sun, the energy from the sun, is heating this water, causing some of these hydrogen bonds to come away from one another, and it evaporates, right? As it evaporates, it turns into a gas. Gas is less dense, so it moves up into the atmosphere. As it moves up into the atmosphere, it cools and it condenses, and it sticks to clouds until there's so much water in those clouds. It's so heavy. And number 3, it starts to rain. Fancy word for rain is precipitation. So from precipitation, water can go in different pathways, right? It can run off along the surface of the land or the cement or the hills or whatever. So it runs off along the surface, and it can go back and reach its body of water, rivers, lakes, streams, or ocean. Ocean is the biggest reservoir for water. If after precipitation, instead of running off, it can infiltrate, it can go, into the soil, which is probably where all the organisms, like your plants, are going to soak it up and put it into their own bodies. Or it can keep infiltrating, percolating, is almost synonymous, through the soil. In your AP exam, I've seen it used synonymously, but percolating means that it's going to keep going, and it's probably going to reach some groundwater stop. This is groundwater is where we set up our wells and we get some nice fresh water for ourselves to drink. But some of that groundwater is still also going to keep flowing, quasi running off, but groundwater flowing, and it may still reach oceans, rivers, lakes, streams, but it might stay as groundwater for a long time. At the same time as the water is doing that just on its own, via just abiotic rivers, lakes, streams, there's evaporation that's coming from all the living things too. From us, we're evaporating sweat. Right? The soil might be evaporating. The soil might be drying up if there was some water there. And the trees are too. They're transpiring. Transpiration is what we call the T for trees, equivalent of evaporation. I like to call it tree sweats. And that's also part of your cycle here. Okay, so here's your definitions. Review them as you need to. And we're going to be more concerned with, now that you pros at the water cycle already, we're going to be more concerned with how it is that we're messing up the water cycle. I'll show you this video in class. When we deforest, we already get rid of some of the transpiration from trees. So it turns out that the more trees you have in a region, the more they transpire, the more it rains in that area. So you're going to reduce tree amounts in addition to reducing tree biomass. When you deforest, you increase runoff along the surface because your trees that are there, they're responsible for soaking up that water and putting it back into their bodies, their tree bodies. And so you end up with more water running off if you don't have something that's soaking it up. Furthermore, if you add pavement or cement regions, that makes it even slipperier. It makes it more likely that the water runs off. And that means that within a region where you have no forest and you've got pavement, that region has lost the infiltration, the ability to have water infiltrate into groundwater sources or plant sources. And another thing we love to do is we might have bodies of water, rivers, lakes, streams, whatever. And instead of letting them roam into their own pathways, we like to grab it and divert it to new places. For instance, here in LA, we'd love to divert water from the Colorado River, for example, for our big, huge population. And that might mess up that area's local water cycle because they depended on the water amounts and pathways in order to cycle within that one area. So that area might get drier.